Exclamation everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is Sunday morning, just past midnight here. Sunday morning, June the 7th, 2015. Trying to remember what 6 meant on there. 6 is June, yes. It's been that kind of day. I'm sorry, guys. Been that kind of day. I hope everybody's been having a excellent week. I've had a good week as well. I've been playing a lot of games, a lot of research, if you will, into certain games, little indie games that I may end up doing some recordings for, and some that I have done some recordings for, some side quest videos. So you'll get to see some side quest videos coming up. That'll be a good thing. I'm actually a little bit stuck when it comes to Chroma Squad. I actually got to a point in there. I started to play, season 3 of Chroma Squad, the level 3 stuff, and the difficulty suddenly spiked. So my videos on Chroma Squad may be few and far between for a little bit, unless I somehow manage to get past this one problem that I'm having. But yeah, it's like I've lost twice in a row already, and it's just I'm at a point where suddenly everything is ridiculously difficult. So I'm trying to figure my way through all of that. So if there is a little bit of a lull in the episodes for that, you might that's the reason why. And I'll probably put a tweet out for that as well, just so everybody's aware. But yeah, that's what's going on with that. So I'm struggling a little bit there, but I have managed to finish recording Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. I think it looks like there might be 5 more episodes of that coming up. Well, 5 more that I recorded, and how many did I have left in the queue? I think there was just the 1 left in the queue, maybe? No, I think maybe it's 5 altogether that are left. So that had a lot of fun with that game. It's not as, the characters are not as memorable, or the story's not as in-depth as it was for the New Order, but it is some more shooty stuff, and the locales were pretty well laid out. I would say there wasn't anything too crazy about them that other than the game did spend a heck of a lot more time in the first part, when you're trying to get through Castle Wolfenstein, than it did at the end. And so it's very noticeable. It's very noticeable. The game kicks into high gear in the second part, and even though you revisit some areas that you've been in, the areas are completely different. Whereas in Castle Wolfenstein, it just felt like there was a lot of just dragging your feet a lot in that one, because it just felt like it just was never ending after a while. But anyway, you'll get to see all that. That'll be going up on the channel over the next couple of weeks, but I have that fully recorded now. And I'm pretty far ahead, actually, on Dishonored. Still haven't finished it yet, but I have quite a few episodes that are unrendered yet, that I haven't edited yet. Some raw footage there. So ready to go for that. So that'll be going on for quite some time. I'm hoping to go and just render a whole bunch of stuff all at once overnight here, and just have it all be done and ready to go, and upload it all. So that said, I also, I guess I won't be able to render anything tonight, but anyway, I'll try my best. It's getting rather late to try to do that, especially when I have this Cube Ramblings episode to do. There won't be any Void Expanse again this week, because I spent my time trying to get through some other games first before I did that. So hopefully when we get back into that, I'll remember what I was doing and where I was going with things. But anyway, that will continue after I've pretty much I should be able to do that now. I should be able to be a little bit more consistent with Void Expanse, I hope. I'm still trying to find a room for The Witcher 3. I have not started playing it yet, and I actually haven't gone and bought my computer components yet for my new computer and all that stuff. So I still have some ways to go on that. That's why I've been kind of procrastinating a little bit on all the things. But I would like to start to put some of that together as I can. So we've got that going. Got that going for it, and then I've been just playing a lot of little indie games that are actually kind of nice. I've been looking at. I will probably have a video. I recorded a video of me playing a game called TIS 100, and about to shock you with this, but it's a puzzle game, and I'm actually really enjoying it. My intention was to just do a side quest video of it, and that's it. And I may still end up doing that, but I'm actually having a hankering to play the game even some more. And it's a puzzle game. I mean, puzzle game through and through. It's by a company called Zachtronics. They brought you other games like Space Chem and Infinifactory, I think, are the other two games that Zachtronics has made. So, all about the puzzle games they are. And this one, like I said, puzzle game all the way through, but I'm actually really enjoying it. Probably because it has a programming spin on it. In fact, more than likely because it's got the programming spin on it. And it's giving me an excuse to pull some of my old assembly language skills, if you want to call them that, out of mothballs. It uses a little bit of assembly language. It's not real assembly language. It's made up for the game, but it's basically the idea is you're trying to restore some old possibly Russian computer microcomputer back to working order, and it's the 80s or early 80s when you're doing it, and it's set up as a series of nodes, and you have to write the missing code in order to fix the segments of memory that are corrupted. And along the way, you get a little bit of story. You get to read some of the corrupted memory slots and get a little bit of a blog type of thing going on in there. That you're reading the blog of the guy who bought the computer and them trying to restore it and trying to figure out what the purpose of the computer was and all that stuff. And I had a lot of fun with it. I played for over an hour. I don't know how long the video is going to be because I probably am going to cut it down a bit, especially with some of the think time and whatnot. But it's going to be a nice meaty look at it. I don't know if I'll go back and record all the rest of it. I think I'll probably just end up playing it myself, or maybe I'll do it as a live stream. I'm not entirely sure. There's I've been cooking up a thing here for the live streaming going forward, where there's a way for you to live stream to multiple services at once. Now the instructions that I saw were using what was the name of that? The name just escaped me, but it might come back to me. But there's a server package that you can install locally. It's cross-platform that would allow you to basically divvy up your stream to multiple services. So that way you've got one program running, you've got OBS running, but then your stream is going out to, say, Twitch and Hitbox, or Twitch and Hitbox and YouTube if you wanted to. I've been thinking about doing that for some of the streams, maybe not all of my streams, but for some of them, because it sounds like a fantastic way of providing the HD like experience. So, if you go on Hitbox, you'd be able to see the same stream in HD, and with actually less delay than you'd get on YouTube or Twitch, I should say. And then on Twitch, you can just, if you prefer to be on Twitch, you can be on Twitch. And also I'd be able to have the benefit of having both of those communities, available, being shown on both of those communities and being able to have the chat up for both of them. Although that'll be interesting trying to manage the chat between the two of them. But I assume I'm in the planning phases of maybe doing something like that. There's a way to do it, obviously, as I said, locally, but there's also, I noticed a website out there that does it for you, where it will, you sign up and it will allow you to, you stream to that site, and then that site will then divvy up your stream amongst all the services that you wanted to be on. So, Twitch, YouTube, Hitbox, whatever else you might be live streaming to. So I might actually try that site out. I noticed that one of the people that I follow, Space Game Junkie, did it once and was able to live stream have 3 different live streams going at the same time, like a simulcast. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued, and I want to see what that will do. I don't know if I would stream to YouTube yet, because I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work for YouTube. But I mean, I could try it. It would never hurt, I guess. But I have been thinking of, like, hey, let me stream to both Twitch and Hitbox, and then that way, I can say, like, hey, if this quality of the stream, sucks for you, then here's another place you can go and see the same thing and still be able to interact and everything else. It's still live and all that stuff. So, been looking at those things. I did end up having to cancel the live stream on Friday because I had to work late. And when I got back home, I was like, you know what? I'm just too darn tired right now. I mean, I got back home in time to do the live stream, but I hadn't eaten yet, and I was just tired, and it was just like, you know what? Let's just relax for this way. And then what I did was I ended up just recording a bunch of Wolfenstein and a bunch of Dishonored. So just getting a lot. I have a back catalog now for a little bit, which is very nice indeed. I actually was able to, because I did that, I was able to record some more decks as well. I have a little bit of a back catalog of that too going forward. Not a lot, but a little bit. Everything is, I'm getting ahead of the game on things, so that's always good. I still want to spend some time in The Witcher at some point, even though I don't have my computer yet. I would still like to start the series on that sooner rather than later. So I just have to figure out where it's going to live. There's a part of me that's like, you know what? Why don't you just do 20-minute episodes every other day, like a normal YouTuber would. We'll see if I can pull that off or not, because I'm not going to say most. I'm going to say the YouTubers that I've watched that do that tend to do very little editing. So you see pretty much everything. So like they'll sit down for, say, an hour or two and record, and then do very little editing in there. They'll just chop it up into 20-minute bits, and then that's that. I tend to like to cut out the slow parts, the ones that I feel aren't very interesting to watch or to listen to, for that matter. So I don't know. I might try something like that. I might do like record for 2 hours and then try to see how many episodes I can get out of it when I edit, and then that will determine what kind of schedule I can follow for it. If I do start to go like every other day on things, then I'm going to also adopt the other thing that YouTubers do, which is not guaranteeing that you're going to be consistent with that. So we'll see. I have plenty of other things going up on the channel too, so I don't want to. I'm at that point where I've got so many things I'm recording that I really need to stop myself from recording more stuff. And yet I can't. I'm enjoying it far too much. That's the killer thing about it, right? It's like you start to enjoy Let's Playing to the point where you start recording everything, and you're enjoying everything, and it's just like it's hard to have that many long running series unless you've recorded the entire thing through, right? If I wasn't just a hobbyist doing this, on my free time, if I was doing this full time, then yeah, I could see sitting down for 3 days and going through an entire series and recording it and editing it and rendering it. And then, then you can be as consistent as you want then, because you've bought yourself a padding of some room, which is why I try to do anyway, even as a hobbyist. But it's not, I can't sit down and record the entire thing usually, unless it's only a 2-hour game. But way off on a tangent there. But look out on the channel sometime this week. I may have a video out of TIS 100. Also been looking at a couple other indie games here that just kind of popped up on my radar. Looking at one called Cosmonautica, and it's interesting. It's sort of, I've played about 20 minutes of it or so this morning. Well, yesterday morning, I guess now, at this point. And it, from first blush, seems like it sort of suffers from the slow pace of mobile games that mobile games tend to have, because it does really go slowly. I mean, the pace of the gameplay, although you can fast forward, which I did a lot. But the idea behind the game is it's a sci-fi strategy game. Is it really strategy? It's roguelike, in that you have to manage your ship, right? So you take over a ship where all the crew abandoned it because the previous captain was just messed up entirely. So you take over the ship, and you have the ship is bare bones. You have to buy a bunch of, you stop off at space stations, and you have to buy a bunch of rooms for your station. And you have to buy crew and various other things, upgrades and all that stuff, research things. And the idea is that you build up your crew, that your crew has all the stats that you would expect, has all these social stats and various other things that you have to manage. Like, you got to manage their hunger, you got to manage their sleep. You have to try to pair them up with like-minded individuals so that you get the most efficiency out of them. Now, I mean, it sounds like a lot of micromanagement, but it really isn't. The game really handles most of that for you. What you do directly is you manage like how many, like what their shifts are, what their work shifts are. Like, it starts out with, the first 2 shifts are their working shifts, and the next 2 shifts are their recreational shifts. And the idea there being that if you have like multiple pilots, say, you'd have one pilot, say, for shift 1 and 2 doing their job, and then the other one, then they go on recreation so that they don't get too uptight about, working all the time and having no play. And then you'd have maybe your second pilot come in, with the opposite schedule. The first two segments of the day are recreation, and then the next 2 are working, say. So you sort of have that little bit of management around them, and you can click on them and have them go do stuff. You have your crew go do stuff, but for the most part, it seems to focus around the quests and trading and hubs and all that stuff. So you go to a space station, and that's where you buy all your equipment, and you can also get your quests there. You can get pilots there, or that's pilots, but crew, I should say, because your crew has all different things. So like I had a pilot and a repairer on my crew, and then based on what your ship has, you have certain quests that you can do. So if you have a cargo bay, then that gives you a leg up as far as doing trading quests. If you have a turret of some kind, you can do quests that involve, you know, fighting or bounties. And then, of course, there's also scientists. You can go on science missions if you want, so on and so forth. All that to make money, which then allows you to upgrade your ship even more and get better crew, hire better crew. Your crew, you have to pay them each month for, you know, for their services. They get a stipend, so you have to make sure you manage that along the way. It's basically a sci-fi management sim. It's a lot like the Spatials, even in like graphics, sort of. It's a lot like the Spatials, but instead of being a space station one, it's really a spaceship simulator. There's no, as far as I know, there's no away missions that you go on. It's just, you know, you can do some ship-to-ship combat, but there's no like, I'm going to go onto this planet and do stuff. As far as I know, now I haven't gotten, like I said, I've only done like 20 minutes of it, so I don't really know everything about the game yet. I do know that it was taking, like, there's some real world time that it takes to get between space stations in a particular, you know, and other bases in a particular solar system. So, for instance, I was on a quest that was routinely taking like 8 hours of game time, right? Which roughly translates to like 8 minutes of real time. But you can fast forward, and that's what I was doing a lot of. You can just fast forward it and just keep on, and then it takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes to get to where you're going, and nothing really seemed to happen along the way. I assume that there's like encounters that you can have during the, you know, when you're moving from one place to another, but I didn't encounter any yet. Again, still very early, so been taking a look at that. I might do a video on that at some point once I've learned a little bit more of it and figured it out a little bit better. And then another game that caught my attention is called SimpleRockets. And this one, they actually say in their description, like, we were heavily inspired by Kerbal Space Program. In fact, in the game, they have a link to the Kerbal Space Program website. You can click on and it takes you there. Basically, it's a 2D version of Kerbal Space Program. 2D plus also a little less complicated in some cases. The idea on this one is there's a sandbox mode where you can just go across the entire solar system and do your thing, or you can do a bunch of challenges. There's whole lots of challenges like land on the moon and various other challenges like that. A couple tutorials. I did all the tutorials. They were pretty fast and straightforward. It doesn't have like the economic factors per se that like Kerbal Space Program has now. It's just basically a sandbox for the most part. You get all your parts straight away that you can use, and the 2D nature of it actually makes it a lot easier to just throw rockets together, right? You can just say, here's my pieces of this rocket and all that stuff. It's got staging just like Kerbal Space Program does. It's got different types of engines, different types of fuel tanks, and things like that. I don't know that it had any science stuff, though. I don't know if it did or not. I didn't get that far into it. But it does have, you know, physics and stuff. So you do have like orbital mechanics to manage. You do get, you do have a apoapsis and a periapsis, and they work much the same way. You know, if you want to go land on the moon, then you do a full burn prograde when you're at the periapsis, and then when you get to the apoapsis again, you do a burn there, and then that circularizes your, I swear I've only had half a beer, circularizes your orbit so that you can then catch up with the moon or whatever, and then go land on it. And it's all 2D graphics, so if your computer cries while playing Kerbal Space Program, it will not cry with this one, and you'll get to a lot of the experience. You won't get the in-depth stuff. Like, it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have the economic stuff. It doesn't have the science too much in it. It doesn't have the unlocking of stuff, as far as I can tell, and it doesn't have the I was trying to think of, what was the other thing? I had something on the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember it now. It was right there. But it has like the orbital, like I said, it has the orbital mechanics. It has the ability to land. You can have a lander to land on other planets. I don't think you can do EVAs or anything like that. I think it's just like a lander game at that point. So that's another thing that it doesn't really do. But I do like I like the simplicity of it. It is a mobile game with a mobile UI that has been ported to PC. So if you're particularly frustrated by mobile APIs on a PC, or I'm sorry, mobile UIs on a PC, mobile APIs. I got APIs on the brain now because I was just thinking about TIS 100. If you got mobile UIs, if you don't like mobile UIs with the big giant buttons and all that stuff, this might frustrate you. That said, it does have keyboard bindings for all the stuff. So like steering your rocket and stuff, you don't have to click and drag like it says. You can actually use the keyboard keys for that and stuff. So that seems like it's going to be something that would be a lot of fun to play. I would like to play that on the YouTubes possibly. So we'll see on that one. I think that about the only other thing I've been trying to play here and there is called Planets Cubed. I was part of the Kickstarter. I'm a Kickstarter backer for them, and so I have access to an early alpha build, and I still haven't quite figured it out yet. Like, I see what the build. I played it for half an hour, 35 minutes. I still don't see the objective yet. I feel like it's still very early yet for me to really sink my teeth into it. It's still, I still haven't quite figured out what I'm supposed to do in the demo. there's these weird amorphous things that you're shooting, but then some of them you don't have to shoot, some of them you do. It's just, I was trying to wrap my brain around it. I haven't succeeded yet. So that one's just going to be on the back burner for a little bit until it cooks for a little bit longer. And then as far as news goes, so before I get into the news, a rant. A sudden rant appears. What the hell has happened to Polygon? Seriously, what the hell has happened to Polygon? I know that I realize that they've been sort of going downhill for a while now, but they've hit like a new low recently. It's weird. It's really weird. Earlier on in the week, I saw an article pop up in my RSS feed, and it had the trappings of being an opinion article. And I know when I go on Polygon and I look at an opinion article, it's going to be something that makes me lose a few brain cells probably, unless it's something done by a non staff writer. Like I've seen things go on there from, say, what's that guy's name? Joe Parlock, I think, is one of the guys. His articles tend to be really good, but he's not like a normal writer for Polygon. He's not like a staff writer for them. I think he's a staff writer for Destructoid, but not for Polygon. So excluding all the non-staff writers, the non-regular writers for Polygon, I would say for the most part, when I see an opinion piece by a regular Polygoner, I tend to cringe a little bit because I know it's going to be something that's like We're all doomed. Video games are doomed. You guys suck. You're terrible. You should feel bad about yourself. How does it feel as a gamer to be a member of the band playing on the deck of the Titanic as it sinks? And it's like, what the hell are you guys talking about? What world do you guys live in? Seriously. Gaming is as strong as it's ever been. And it's only getting stronger, honestly. But I remember earlier in the week, I saw one of those articles pop up, and you could tell right away, because like you can't really necessarily tell by a title. Sometimes you can, but you can tell when you open it up in your RSS feeder and you see the first paragraph or two. You're like, oh, okay, this is going to be one of those. And I remember seeing one pop up, and I was like, oh, I kind of half-heartedly skimmed it. I was like, I don't quite understand what this thing is saying, but it's kind of weird, and I don't really know. And I'm just like, I'll just put that out of my brain for now and just look at something else. Because it's very hard, going, even right before I started recording here, I went through, I go through my RSS feeds, make sure I didn't miss anything, because I'm not checking them 24/7 all the time. And, I go back for the last 5 days. I just kind of weed through the things and see what I want to talk about and what I don't really have any interest in talking about. And I inevitably, when I come to Polygon on my list, I know I'm going to spend most of my time just scrolling through all the bullshit. It's like every so often they write about games. They're supposed to be a gaming site, but every so often they write about games. Most of the time it's about stuff you couldn't really care about. It's like almost every time I see Ben Kuchera's name come up in the byline, I'm like, okay, this is probably nothing about games, nothing about video games at all. This is probably some pop culture thing that I really don't give a damn about, that I could go on a pop culture site and read about. But yeah, and that's been happening for a long time, where they're not really as focused on games as they really should be, or either that or they just don't really understand their own readership, which might be a whole other barrel of worms there. But getting back to the story, like I said, half-heartedly read through this article in question, and didn't really understand what the hell I was reading, didn't really interpret anything, just kind of moved on. And then I was listening, just another, I think it was yesterday actually, or the day before, I was listening to the Co-optional podcast, and they were ripping an article on Polygon to shreds. And I'm like, I wonder if that was the one that I saw earlier in the week, because I'm like, I vaguely remember something that made me just go, what the hell am I reading? Right? So I looked back today at it, and turns out, yep, that was the one I was looking at. There was I'm not going to link you to it, because I can't in good conscience link to something that is that terrible. I just can't do it. It's like I can't give them more clicks to their already horrible thing. But if you were to Google search for, what's the guy's name, Colin Campbell and Rock Band 4, or I'm just Rock Band and Canapé, you will more than likely, your first hit will be the article that I'm talking about now, and that others on the internet have been talking about, is being probably the worst article on a gaming website that there ever was. Basically, he talks about how he was forced to preview a Rock Band, the new Rock Band coming out, and doesn't really like Rock Band, and so he just sort of rants on about how he doesn't like Rock Band, and then starts to proceed to say that video gaming is kind of stupid, and everything about games is stupid, and it's just like you're just pressing buttons on a controller, and it's all virtual, and there's no meaning to it, and it's all completely meaningless, and various things that make you scratch your head and go, did anybody read this article that has editorial permissions? Was the editor away sick? What the hell? How did this make it onto a gaming website, or predominantly what's supposed to be a predominantly gaming website? And then I thought some more about, and I was thinking more about it today. And I'm like, you know what? That's kind of par for the course for the way Polygon has been going lately. I'm actually considering, it's rough because I was going to link to an article on there for something else I'm going to talk about a little bit later, because they went into a lot of depth and a lot of detail, because they still occasionally have articles that really go into detail and depth, more so than other sites. Like, they might be the only site, sometimes on some topics, other sites have covered that topic, but a lot of them, for whatever reason, didn't go into any real details. And that I'll go on to Polygon and I'll see the same thing, and they'll actually have many more details about stuff. So it pains me to say this, but I'm at the point where I'm sort of like, maybe I should not link to anything on Polygon anymore, unless I absolutely have to, unless it's the only place that has any kind, that does the coverage, any kind of decent coverage on a particular topic. Thankfully, for that particular topic I was going to talk about later, I found a different site that actually doesn't have quite as much detail, but it has enough. So yeah, I won't be linking to them this week, I don't think. But it's I feel like they've gotten to a point where they're like, you know what? We're trying to prime the pipes now. We're trying to get people to understand that we no longer want to be in the business of doing games journalism. Because they're doing anything but lately. I mean, it's like they'll do 20 articles a day on, you know, the latest movie trends and stuff like that. But then you'll get maybe 1 or 2 articles on actual gaming. And I get that feeling like they're trying to say, like, hey, we're just gonna we're gonna get you guys used to this, and we're gonna make it so that all the people who are here for gaming stuff end up getting pissed off with us and leaving and never reading us again, so that we can then switch over to being just a social tabloid that we want to be in the first place, and then and not have all the angry, irate comments from people looking for video game content. And I kind of feel like that's what they're doing at this point. It's like a psychology experiment, right? It's like, we're going to be very subtle about this. You know, I can appreciate that they're trying to take the more subtle approach, but honestly, I prefer the more in-your-face approach. Like, hey, guys, we're really don't want to do this anymore. Like, an example would be Kotaku, right? Like, Kotaku is pretty straightforward about the fact that they don't really sometimes understand their own their own readership, right? Like, you get all this crap, right? Where it's they're cross-promoting other Gawker media sites, right? And sometimes you don't even know it. Like, the title seems rather innocuous enough. You think, oh, somebody's just talking about something. And then you go there and it's like, oh yeah, that wasn't too bad an article. I mean, it was kind of weird, but it wasn't that bad, right? And then you look at the comments section, you're like, and all the comments are like, man, these guys need to get a life. These people are playing video games. What is going on here? And this more virgins in their parents' basements. I'm like, what is going on here? And then you realize, oh, I'm not on Kotaku anymore. I'm on Deadspin or some other nonsense site. It's like, I can sort of see where they're going there. I'm like, you know what? All right, at least they're honest about not knowing what the hell their readers want to actually read. It's like, you know what? Here's some shit in your feed right here. Here's some more shit in your RSS feed. There you go. Kotaku, more shit in your RSS feed, right? I mean, the whole point of me having an RSS feed is that I only want gaming stuff. The point is, I don't want to go to your site and get all that other nonsense. I'm trying to get just a curated stuff here. Unfortunately, they don't tend to have a fine-grained enough RSS feed that I can do that with. In fact, most of them don't. But all that said, yeah, there's been that big sort of uproar. I don't know if I'd call it an uproar, more of a mutual face palming session that the internet has had about this particular article on Polygon, and rightfully so, I would say. So I thought I would just briefly talk about the. I don't know how brief it's been, but I thought I would briefly talk about that because it's been something that's been bugging me too. Like as I try to weed through all the nonsense in my feed from them from Polygon, I'm like, why am I reading about this right here? It's like I want video game coverage, please. And when I get video game coverage, I would like it to actually be, you know, from somebody who appreciates video games and is not just like, hey, I'm really tired of writing video game journalism. I want to be a real journalist. I want to be a real journalist when I grow up. It's like, hey, you know what? You are just paid to go to an event and eat canapé, whatever the hell that thing is. Whatever it is, it's ridiculously expensive because it's got that weird name to it. And write about video games that are upcoming, and you couldn't even be bothered to do that. So you have lost a lot in my brain. Yeah, unfortunately though, I will still continue looking through them for. I will continue doing the thing that I'm not supposed to do, which is continue to click on their articles, trying to find some nuggets of information in a vast forest of nonsense and sky is falling isms. I'm not usually generally critical about people, but this one just had me really frustrated. I have to say. Anywho, that is all I'm going to say on that. Now we'll get to some actual freaking news here. The GOG Summer Sale is upon us. And I will link you, well, I'm just going to give you a link to GOG.com so you can see it for yourself. But I'm looking at it right now. I'll do a little refresh job on here so I can see what, see the latest deals. So we got, wow. So all the Interplay flight sim games, so Descent 1 and 2, Descent 3 Mercenary, Descent Free Space Battle Pack, and Free Space 2. That entire pack is 75% off right now at $8.96, so you can get all those in one. The Broken Sword Saga as well, and unfortunately these are like, it says there's only about 6 hours left on these, so by the time I tell you about these, they're probably already done, unfortunately. But I figure, well, I gotta get you hyped up for all the sales here. The Broken Sword Saga. So Broken Sword, something of the Templars. Is that Garden of the I can't read it. It's so freaking tiny. I got my glasses on too. The original Broken Sword 2, Broken Sword something something something. I can't read the subtitles. Broken Sword, another something, and Broken Sword 5. Broken Sword 5 with green subtitles. These are all 75% off at $13.25 right now as I speak. And then there's some highlighted things here. Also, what did I buy? I bought I bought the Master Plan. That's another game that I want to look at. I just briefly did one mission in it, and I haven't quite figured it out yet. But I bought the Master Plan on GOG here. And I think that was like 20% off or something like that. I don't see it on here right now. Must have been a flash deal or something. But yeah, I did that, or either that or it's just way down the page here and I can't see it. No, I don't, it does not pop out at me. So I bought that, and because it was, actually it was probably like 15 bucks or so, because when you buy more than $1 worth of stuff, you can get SimCity 2000 Special Edition for free, and I've already redeemed that, so I got that for free. If you buy $20 or more, you get Stalker Clear Sky for free. And if you buy $50 or more, you get Xenonauts for free. So that is continuing on now. So that's another little nugget on top of everything else. You unlock free games. Twice a day deals, as always. You know, GOG tends to go all out with their summer sales. Right now, as I speak, a couple of the things that are highlights here. Banished is 75% off. Shadowrun Dragonfall Director's Cut is 73% off. It's like $4.09 for that. Paper Sorcerer is 50% off at $2.49. Men of War Assault Squad Game of the Year Edition is 75% off at $3.79. These are all US dollars, by the way. Starpoint Gemini 2, the game I have not yet gotten back into. I need to get into that at some point again. It's been on my backlog for forever here. It is 60% off at $13.99. And I believe also I saw a little bit earlier there's DLC for Starpoint Gemini 2, and I think that was also on sale for like $4. Majesty 2 Collection is 75% off at $4.99. The Book of Unwritten Tales 2, which looks like a really fantastic point-and-click game. I've been watching Jesse Cox play through that game. It's one of those games that would frustrate the bejesus out of me because... So, point-and-click games are generally a little bit frustrating for me anyway because it's a lot of... It's what I like to call hunt the pixel, pixel hunting. You're like, where is the pixel that I need to click on to make this thing happen? Types of games. What makes me go from frustrated to sort of infuriated when it comes to point-and-click games is when they require you to click on something multiple times in order to get different results. It's like the old saying, only a crazy man does something twice expecting a different result. Right? Continues to do something, continues to do the same thing expecting a different result, or some semblance of that. And unfortunately, the Book of Unwritten Tales, from what I can see from Jesse Cox's playthrough, it requires you on many occasions to just constantly click on the same thing over and over and over again in order to unlock the next piece or the next piece of the puzzle. That said, it looks like a fantastic game. It's very funny. The humor is there. I've never seen. I didn't even know that there wasn't a Book of Unwritten Tales 1. Apparently there was. It's a very old game apparently. But if nothing else, I would suggest that you go find your favorite YouTuber and go and watch their playthrough of it, if point and clicks aren't necessarily your bag. If they are your bag, though, it is currently 30% off on GOG at $24.49. Star Ruler 2 is 40% off at $14.99. Those are the big deals right now. The big high deals, the highlights as they call them. Star Ruler 2, I believe, is a strategy game. It looks like one from the box art anyway, but I'm not entirely sure. I think I remember hearing about it because obviously it's a sci-fi game, but I think I looked at it and I was like, not really my bag right now. Kerbal Space Program, something I've been playing through, is 25% off at $29.99. Oceanhorn Monster of Uncharted Seas, a game that I finished playing a while ago that was actually fairly decent, albeit it does have a little bit of it does have some frustrating boss battles and some downright broken boss battles, I would say. but it was competent. It was fun for a while. The first, I would say, first 3/4 of the game were really fun. I think towards the end it starts to get to be a bit of a grind, but beyond that it was a lot of fun, and that is currently 40% off at $8.99. Race Driver Grid, I believe is this Grid 1? I believe that's Grid 1. I don't know. Race Driver Grid, I've never heard of that before. That is 80% off at $2.99. I assume that's a very old game. I feel like that's Grid 1, but maybe not. I mean, it says Race Driver Grid, which I don't know. I don't know what that means. But that's the thing. That's the name of it anyway. What else is on here that looks really interesting? Blaze Blue was something I took a look at just on my own. I haven't I was just kind of looking at videos of it and stuff. That I don't know if that's not really something that's I would find interesting, but might be something that others find interesting. I believe it's a 2D. What is it? What is it actually? Let me see what it says here. 2D fighter, yes, from the creators of the Guilty Gear series. So it's a fighting game, a 2D fighting game. I have even less tolerance for fighting games than I do anything else. Although brawlers I'm okay with. Straight up fighting games, not entirely sure. And I don't know if this falls under the brawler or fighting game. It looked like from the screenshots I just saw that it was a straight fighting game, like a Mortal Kombat type of thing. But I could be entirely off base and wrong there. But that is currently 75% off at $2.49. What else is on here that I could pick up? Oh, here's the Starpoint Gemini 2 DLC. Secrets of Aethera is 50% off at $2.49. So that, even if you have Starpoint Gemini 2, maybe you want to get the DLC for that for relatively cheap. Anything else on here that kind of jumps out at me? Oh, here's the original, The Book of Unwritten Tales. On here is actually 80% off at $3.99. So you could actually get both The Book of Unwritten Tales and The Book of Unwritten Tales 2 for $30, under $30 right now, just under $30. So yeah, that's be an interesting little pick up there, I guess. I don't know what adjective I was going for there. It was just, but it was something. There's also the Book of Unwritten Tales 2 Almanac Edition. I don't know what that means, but that's 30% off at $31.49. Space Run Fast and Safe Delivery, the game that I wish I could play more of, but I am still hopelessly stuck on one freaking mission. That is 75% off. It is a tower defense game with a twist in that you are a spaceship on a cargo run, on a cargo haul, and you place all the towers around your spaceship, and you fly in a straight line and have to fend off all the enemies that come for you and looking for you, while still protecting all of your cargo and keeping your ship from being destroyed. I really enjoyed that game. I really want to get back to that game. I have quite a few episodes of it, but if I just need to get past that one freaking mission that I'm just completely stumped on. I mean, it's like you get to that one point and it's just like suddenly the difficulty spikes up to the point where it's just a nightmare for me anyway. So there's that. The Hitman games here. We got Hitman Codename 47, the original, at 67% off at $1.99. Hitman 2, Silent Assassin, I believe is the subtitle there. So that's 66% off at $3.39. And then Hitman Contracts, which I hear was actually a really good one as far as the more modern Hitman series go. 66% off at $3.39. What else can I pick off of here that looks good? I just saw Straight Suit Zero here, director's cut. Ugh, no thanks. That's actually 80% off. Even at 80% off, I wouldn't buy it. $3.99. I have the game already on Steam. It's just I did not. It's the only sci-fi space fighter game that I played 2 missions of, and I went, this is utter shit. I hate it. I literally hated it. I was like, I've never hated a sci-fi space fighter game before until I played Strike Suit Zero, and I just absolutely hated it. Just absolutely. It was the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've played a lot of, relatively, interesting games that had a little, rough edges around them. But this thing, the story was just stupid. It was just dumb. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I was just like, it's the only game, it's the only sci-fi space fighter game that I absolutely quit. I was like, I'm done. No more of that. So there you go with that. That is $3.99 if you're morbidly curious as to how much that would set you back that you'll never see again. What else on here that looks interesting? I don't know what Jack Keen and Jack Keen 2 The Fire Within are. I have no idea. They look like point and clicks, but I have no idea. Lords of Sulima. Lords of Sulima. This is a game. This is an RPG game that I've wanted to sit down and actually record on for a while. I was thinking of recording just doing a live stream of it actually, which actually might make some more sense because it's a long form RPG. It's an old school RPG in its look and feel, and it's actually pretty interesting to look at as far as what I was playing of it. I played about an hour or so of it. And for that hour, I really enjoyed it, and I've had it on my back burner for a while to actually sit down and record something or do a live stream of it or something of that nature. So that is now 50% off at $9.99. Also, the deluxe edition of it is 50% off at $14.99. I don't know, what does the deluxe edition give you? It gives you a Talisman of Galot DLC, so there's some DLC there. Bestiary, a mythology book with more than 200 pages, a game guidebook, soundtrack with 15 original themes, HD world map, and exclusive wallpaper. So there's some physical rewards in there if you get the deluxe edition. That's pretty cool. I assume they're physical. Maybe it's, no, it would be digital, wouldn't it? It would all be digital, I would think. Game guidebook. Yeah, I would imagine it's all digital stuff, not physical stuff. So yeah, that's even then it's a pretty good deal, I would say, if you're really into the mythos of that universe or that world. Alan Wake is 80% off at $5.99. A game that I have never played, but I've seen some playthroughs of, and it looked competent. It's just not my type of my bag. It's not my bag, baby. Peeper Sorcerer, which kind of is my bag, but still have never really touched. That's 50% off at $2.49 right now. And Defender of the Crown. I've heard of that. I've never actually played that before. That's an older game, very old game. Serious Sam games here. Serious Sam the First Encounter and Serious Sam the Second Encounter are both 80% off and are both $1.19. So you can pick up Serious Sam 1 and Serious Sam 2 for $3 or so. That's not bad. Yeah, that's all I can see on here that has jumped out at me as things that are on sale on the GOG Summer Sale. And of course, all these things change pretty frequently. In fact, this says next deal's in 6 hours and 36 minutes. And I'm looking at the ending soon here. You know, all these are sort of ending soon, so not too shabby with that. Also, Saints Row the Third, the full package is 66% off at $5.09. That was actually a pretty good game. I really liked Saints Row the Third. I assume the full package has all the DLC in it. I didn't play any of the DLC for it, but I did play the full game, and I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Saints Row 4, honestly. So that is my take on that stuff. That is the GOG Summer Sale. You can go over to GOG.com and take a look at those things for yourself and see if there's anything over there that you can't live without. So there's another game that something that I think I would really enjoy, but it has always been inaccessible to me because it's always been a PlayStation exclusive, and that's the Uncharted series. And I was actually watching Generic B, I think, play through Uncharted 2, and watching that playthrough, I'm like, man, I really want to play all the Uncharted games. It looks like a whole lot of fun. It's the type of thing that I would really enjoy because it just oozes Indiana Jones, and it also in the same breath it also does sort of very cinematic things without forgetting that it's also supposed to be a game. So although some of the controls might be a little bit janky, but everything else about it is just fantastic. It's something that I could see would really draw me in, but it's always been a PlayStation exclusive, and I have a PS3. I see no reason to buy a PS4, especially, I mean, even though Uncharted 4 is coming out, I might be tempted to buy a PS4, but I don't really want to. I just don't see the point. All right, for one game, it just doesn't feel like it's necessary. And I have a PS3 and I have literally no games for it. I bought it and I went and I said, okay, I'm going to get some games, and then I never actually got any games for it. And I just, because right as soon as I bought that, the PC resurgence of PC gaming came back in, and there were so many things to play on the PC. I was like, screw this, screw that PlayStation 3. I'll use just the thing that it came with, the motion control thing, and that was it. But that said, it's been announced that Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection is going to be a thing where they're going to repackage Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. And I will link you to, what am I linking you to? GameSpot. I'll link you to GameSpot on it. But basically, because they have the announcement trailer here and everything else. But it's much like the Halo Master Chief Collection. This one is a repackaging and I suppose an upgrade in some cases of all the games in the Uncharted collection. So Uncharted Drake's Fortune, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, and Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. And then all that is on the heels of Uncharted 4 A Thief's End, which is supposed to come in 2016, next year. The Nathan Drake collection is supposed to be due this October. So, tempted. I'm very tempted, but not if I need a PS4 for it. Sorry. I would love for that to be something that was on PC that I could just play. But it is not, as far as I know, and they're not. They've always been an exclusive PlayStation 4 thing, an exclusive Sony thing. So it's unfortunate because there are people like me who would love to play it, but will not absolutely refuse to buy a PS4 to do it. So there you go. But if you're interested in the Nathan Drake series and you have a PS4, there you go. You've got a link now, and you've got a date, an October date on there to look forward to, and perhaps wait for it. So it was reported a couple weeks ago, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, that Desura, the game store for a lot of indie games, that supports a lot of indie games, they were running into some trouble trying to pay the developers. Like, there were a lot of developers whose games were on Desura who were not getting paychecks when they should have been for all the sales that they did. And I believe it was like there's like a $500 minimum or something that then would then allow them to get paid out, and they weren't getting timely payments. Well, turns out we know why now. It has been reported widely through many of the gaming sites. I'll link you to GameSpot, since it had probably the most information on this. This is the one that I was talking about, that where Polygon had the most information of all of them, but I'm not going to link to them for obvious reasons. Instead, you look at GameSpot for it, and the company that bought Desura, Bad JuJu, apparently was bleeding money, just hemorrhaging it completely. It turns out that when you acquire a company that primary business is on the internet and doing transactions on the internet and various things like that, and downloads and all that stuff, it turns out that a type of company like that has high overhead, right? Because it's like, hey, we need to pay for bandwidth, we need to pay for server space, we need to pay for rack space, we need to pay for developers, we need to pay for or programmers, I should say. We need to pay for all the cooling and air conditioning, and then we gotta manage all the accounts coming in and make sure we pay out our developers who are selling their wares on there correctly, and do all the credit card processing and stuff, or at least deal with chargebacks and those kinds of things. It turns out, when you buy a company like that, it costs a lot of money to maintain a company like that. And apparently Bad JuJu didn't realize that for some reason. And they bought Desura, and from the moment they, according to, you know, the sources that were cited in these articles, anonymous sources anyway, they started hemorrhaging money almost as soon as they bought Desura, because of just the high cost of just doing business, especially the high cost of competing with Steam and GOG and other things like that. So it turns out that they just plain old bum-tuckered ran out of money, and they filed for bankruptcy. And from what I understand, I was reading this on a Reddit thread, and I was not able to read the actual court docket for some reason. The links that everybody has provided just give me a blank screen. I don't know why. I don't know if I need to be logged in or registered or whatever. But from what I understand from people who have commented on this on Reddit, this is not Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This is Chapter 7. And you're asking yourself, what the hell does that mean? Well, Chapter 11 is typically called a restructuring bankruptcy, right? It's when you and the courts get together along with your debtors and your creditors and all that stuff, and you try to I should say your creditors, you and your creditors and the court and everybody gets together, and you try to hammer out a deal whereby you can restructure your company, lay off employees, and do other various changes, and also get, you know, some what's the name of it, forgiveness, I guess, some forgiveness on your loans from your or at least establish some payment plans for your loans for all your creditors. And then the court's like, okay, here's where it's all going, and you guys hammer it out, and then it's in writing, and then that's what you're going to do. And then typically a company will go into Chapter 11, and then they'll reemerge from it like 2 years later or so. Usually, there's no, as far as I know, no limitation on how long you can be in it, but it's it's usually typically like 2 years, 2 to 3 years that you see companies go into it. And then they reemerge from it, and they usually have a more solid business model and more solid money cash flow going on. When a company files for, or an individual for that matter, files for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, well, that's when you basically are admitting to the courts, like, we are completely screwed and nobody wants to negotiate with us to get us unscrewed. And at that point, basically, the court has to come in and figure out, like, how much is reasonable for you to pay, how much will be forgiven as far as debts go, and so on and so forth. And should you go to a debtor's prison, possibly, for not paying your debts, and various things like that. So that's really bad news, because that means that Bad JuJu is in very, very dire straits, to the point where they're not going to reemerge. They've pretty much said, we are going to dissolve and we're not going to reemerge from this, which means that they're locking out all the accounts, and now nobody's getting paid at all, because all the accounts are locked out from the people who would have paid, who would have gone in there and set up their payments for them. The future of Desura kind of hangs in the balance. You know, there's been a couple game developers who have come out and said, hey, if you're playing the game on Desura, you know, either contact us or we strongly recommend you use the Steam key that we gave you as part of your buying it, so that you don't lose access to your games at a future time if Desura gets shut down. I have to look into that too myself, because I have a bunch of games that I really haven't played, and some that I have played, and I have to see if there's a way for me. Some of them aren't on Steam, so I don't know if I'm hoping that even if Desura is down, I'll still be able to play some of those, but you know, there might be some DRM in there. Who knows at this point? But the moral of the story there is, things are changing, and Bad JuJu has hit its insolvency state right now, I would say. The other sort of side note with that is, I believe, from what I've read, that Bad JuJu also owns Indie Royale, which is the competitor to the Humble Bundle as far as having bundles of games that you can buy for a single price. I believe that they own them, although they might be a wholly owned subsidiary. I'm not quite sure how it works. But according to the article, I believe that they are, you know, also owned by Bad JuJu, which means that we might see the death of Indie Royale even. Not that it was really that much alive. It had some good things in it, but it had mostly things that I just wouldn't care for. You know, whereas a humble indie bundle usually has games in it that I would really care to have. The Indie Royale bundles usually were things that were like, you get one or two things in there that you've heard of, and you get like 3 or 4 things that you've never heard of, and with good reason you've never heard of them, because they're not very good usually. So all that said, hoping that everything gets squared away, especially with all the developers who are owed money from this, and so on and so forth. But this will more than likely be the death of Desura, unless some other company comes in, swoops in, and takes them over, or you know, Valve consolidates, or GOG, CD Projekt Red, who runs GOG, might do something for them. Who knows? Who knows at this point? But that's I would imagine those guys will be able to pick up Bad JuJu for pennies on a cent at this point, since they're filing for bankruptcy. But there you go with that. I wanted to point that out, because I had mentioned that before, that there was a you know, developers weren't getting paid for their stuff like they were supposed to, and now we might have a reason why. Another thing that rolled out this week, Steam, well, was it this week or the week previous? I'm not sure. I think it was this week. Steam refunds. You can now get refunds for Steam games up to 14 days after you've purchased, 14 days after the game has gone to Gold Master, I guess, is the way I can phrase that. 14 days from the time that the The game has exited early access and is now considered generally available or general available version of it, a release version of it. Production version of it, whatever you want to call it. 14 days from that point in time, you can, as long as you have less than 2 hours of playtime on it, you can request a refund. And it is literally requesting. It's not an automatic system from what I read. It's just making a request to customer service for a refund. I assume that's to cut down on abuse and other things. Which to them, the interesting thing there is you've heard of companies doing price matching guarantees, right? Well, this one, it's weird because Valve has said, well, there is a scenario where you can play a game for less than 2 hours, and then just well, I'm sorry, you can play a game, yeah, for less than 2 hours, and then request a refund, and then go ahead and pick up the game again on a sale price. So say you buy a game at full price, and then sale goes up the next day, and you haven't played enough of the game yet, you haven't played more than 2 hours of the game yet, you could theoretically, and Valve has said like they're okay with this, go and get a refund for the one, and then go apply that refund to the other, and not run afoul of what the hell was I talking about? Apply the refund. Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think that was correct. You can get a refund, which will go into your Steam wallet, and then you can repurchase the game. That's what I wanted to say. I'm like somewhere along that last sentence I went wrong, and I couldn't figure out where I went wrong. Then you can repurchase that game again without running afoul of abuse. But I'm sure there are other things that will cause abuse to have their hair stand on edge. I will link you, the article that I'm going to link you to for this is a Rock, Paper, Shotgun article. It brings up a lot of good questions that remain unanswered as far as I know. Some of them are like, well, what about all the Steam trading cards and stuff? What if somebody buys something that has Steam trading cards, and most of those trading cards come out within the first 2 hours of gameplay anyway, first 3 hours of gameplay really. So, you know, what happens to those? When you ask for a refund, do you lose those cards? Do those cards end up staying in your inventory, and then you can sell them off and get basically profit? You know, you got a game for free pretty much, and then you've gone back and gotten your money back, and on the same time gotten paid to do a refund, sort of. So there's a lot of little gotchas in there that they haven't quite figured out yet. Them being Valve being who they are, they tend to just throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks. And this feels like that, although it is very good for the consumers, because it is a very forgiving way of doing it. Like it's almost like they're doing a mea culpa a little bit. Like, hey, yes, you can now do this, and most things are not off limits. That said, I believe a human does review those things. There was talk of an automated system reviewing those. I don't know that they have that in place. It sounds like it's just a human right now that's just reading some sort of unattended email box and then responding to things as they come in, I would imagine. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up. That is the Steam refund stuff. You can go look on Rock, Paper, Shotgun. It gives you more information on it. Again, it also works for, I believe, DLC. And if it's an early access game, I believe you can get a refund on it at any time, because the timer doesn't start until it's actually released fully. So you should be able to do that. That does open up the possibility that it won't hurt quite as much if you do a lot of pre-ordering. You know, you can pre-order something, play it for a little bit if you have, or do an early access thing, play it for a little bit, and if you really don't like it, then, you know, send it back. Or, you know, if you want to pre-order something, I guess it doesn't really help with the pre-orders or not, because you don't unlock them until that. Although, I guess, yeah, it helps a little bit because you'll now get 14 days now to say, no, I didn't really like this at all, and 2 hours to really say, no, I didn't really like this at all, and just send it back. And, you know, that way, if you do pre-order something and it's a complete letdown for you, then within the first 2 hours anyway, then you can get some refund back on that where you were just SOL before. So it does improve things in ways, and it is very open. It's surprisingly open for a legal-ish policy thing as far as refunds and all that stuff goes. So you know what? It's good. It's something that Steam has needed for a long time, and now they have it. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, not too many people go and exploit it. And I'm sure if they do, I would imagine Valve will have some sleeves up, some tricks they can pull of their own to counter that. So I talked about the GOG Summer Sale, talked about Desura, talked about Uncharted, Nathan's Drake collection, talked about Steam refunds. I do have a link to GameSpot on here for Mojang's acquisition details, the details behind Microsoft being acquired by, I'm sorry, let's reverse those. Mojang getting acquired by Microsoft, and what, you know, the animosity that was there and otherwise not. But I think I will save that for the next episode, hopefully. I think for now, I think this will pretty much do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I kind of have to stop right now because I'm starting to get really tired. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.